If you want to see the real PAX, then the place you need to come to is undoubtedly the Indie Mega Booth. There's just so much stuff going on here that all the big giant sequels and the expansions, like that Natural Selection 2 stuff, can't possibly compete with. So Dylan and I are going to walk around the Indie Mega Booth and try and find as many awesome games as we can possibly fit into a YouTube video. I'm standing with Phil from Tengami. Phil, what is Tengami?
So Tengami is an atmospheric adventure game that takes place completely inside a Japanese-styled pop-up book. And it's very much like a point-and-click kind of adventure. And it's a very slow-paced, kind of relaxing game. And everything in the game is designed to help you kind of relax and just enjoy the experience.
Ridley Scott once said, when asked what inspired him to do Alien, well, I stole from everyone. And so I hesitate to ask you the inevitable question. I will ask it, what inspired you to make Tengami?
I guess there's two main inspirations. So there's the kind of the pop-up aspect to the game, and then there's the Japanese styling to the game. And the pop-up came from, I guess, from childhood memories of when we kind of used to play with pop-up books. So I think most children at some point have played with a pop-up book, and that kind of mysterious fascination that you have with, you know, how something can be, you know, flat and then fully three-dimensional. And you used to spend ages just folding and unfolding and kind of trying to figure out how this is actually possible. And we wanted to see if we could kind of recreate that in a game and recreate that kind of feeling in adults, basically, you know, that nostalgic feeling. And I guess the Japanese styling is something that, you know, we all have some connection. There's three of us making the game, and we all have some connection with Japan. So Jennifer lived in Japan for 5 years. I've been many times, and our artist is Japanese. And so we kind of put the two together thinking, you know, pop-up books are made from paper or card. Japan has a great kind of history of you know, handmade papers. How can we kind of combine those two things together to create a really unique experience?
I think you might be onto something, Phil, because as I walk past, and I've been walking past quite a few games in the Indie Mega Booth, Tengami absolutely caught my eye with this art style. It's very distinctive. It looks very beautiful. I'm curious, without giving too much away, obviously, for people that might want to play it in future, what if it is an adventure, what is the adventure, maybe loosely?
I guess the adventure is... So there's not an explicit story to the game. It's not something that we want to tell a story to people. It's kind of, we want to let people experience the story that they feel themselves. So there is some kind of suggested hints at the beginning of the game as to what some of the, you know, the kind of meaning of the game might be. But you know, you can just play the game and enjoy it for what it is, or you can kind of think about it a bit more. I'm the kind of person who likes to kind of have things suggested to me, and then I can go away and kind of think about things, and that's what we're trying to do with the game, really.
Fantastic. And to close off, when, where, how?
Well, the when is always the big question. I mean, we've kept moving the date back and back because we want to make the game exactly what we want it to be. But we've kind of said now the game will definitely be out on iOS by the end of this year. And then first quarter of next year will be on the Wii U and the PC and Mac after that.
Hi folks, it's Dylan Wasabi1 here at the PAX Indie Mega Booth, and I'm here with Matt from Never Ending Nightmare. Hello, Matt.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good, Matt. So tell us about Never Ending Nightmare. It looks pretty awesome.
So Never Ending Nightmares is a psychological horror game, but it's actually inspired by my own personal battles with mental illness. I suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder and depression, and I'm channeling those experiences into creating a horrifying game.
Well, it's pretty horrifying. And looking at the, you know, black and white and little bits of color in there, I mean, even just looking at the clip, it's pretty incredible. How long did it take you to develop this game?
So we started in December, so it's been about 9-10 months.
And what platform are you looking at putting it out on?
We're on Kickstarter now, so we're asking for help to actually finish the game, but we're looking at PC, Mac, Linux, and Ouya.
I'm standing in front of Armello and Trent. Trent being a member of the League of Geeks, responsible for creating said Armello. Trent, Armello in 7 words. Go.
Armello in 7 words would be create epic adventures with your friends. Heaps?
I don't know how many words that are. Someone else can count.
Did I have to say the 7 words, or I'm just going to say it in 6, yeah. Create epic adventures with your friends.
Okay, create epic adventures with your friends. Now I can see quite a stylized art style behind me. It's there's a blade dripping with blood. Can you perhaps form a narrative, even if there isn't a strict narrative for the game?
Yeah, certainly. So you play as one of the heroes of the 4 clans of Armello, And basically, the Mad King of Armello is dying of this dark and mysterious force called the Rot. And as it's claiming his life, it's twisting him into this mad and tyrannical ruler. And so the clans have all called out their heroes, and they're all vying for the throne to save Armello, but also for the glory of their clan. And so you play as one of those heroes.
Okay, now the essential question, which I know is just so frustrating for any developer to hear, but when, where, how much?
Certainly, when it's ready, that's the easiest, quick answer. It's our passion project, so we work on it out of hours. So yeah, it'll be when it's ready. But we're at pre-alpha, so and maybe another year in development. It's launching on iPad initially, but we want to take it then to Android tablets and PC. It's just a matter of how and when, being a small indie developer. And yeah, we're not sure about the price point yet, but it should be. It's not a free-to-play game. It'll be like a premium price point on iPad.
Now, you mentioned that this is a game that's being done by almost a collective of people, that after hours, it's not a specific company that's come together to make this project. What are some of the mechanics of drawing together the people? How many people are there on this project? How did they come together?
Yeah, really good question. So maybe about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, I founded the collective, and then I got on a couple of directors that I'd worked with before and wanted to collaborate with again. And then there was about 5 of us, and during that time, we'd spent about 8 months paper prototyping the game, playing it, every night, but also setting up all the admin and legals for this structure of, I guess, profit share, where every task has a number of points, and if you complete a task, you get those points, and then you have a certain amount of points at the end of the project, which is relative to your profit share. That's the super simple version. And as soon as we had that and some key marketing people in place and the playable prototype as a board game, we went out and we said, hey, look, we made these games before and we got this cool game and these people are on board and this is how you'll get paid when it's released. We just started approaching people that we were massive fans of and wanted to work with again or just for the first time, and they all said yes, crazily. And then here we are, and now I think there are 5 directors, and then I think we've got about 20 contractors that come on and off and every now and then when they get some time spare.
Cool, that's like as many people as Unknown Worlds has got going. Well, there you go, guys. And some of that might have sounded a little bit technical, like we had to sort out profit sharing, all that, but that kind of stuff, essential. When you're getting a small team of people together to create a project, you need to think about those mechanics. Well, Trent, thank you very much for talking to us. Good luck with your game.
Wonderful, thanks guys.
Look at you.
Yeah,
camera.
yeah, just a little back and forth.
We're having a conversation. I'm gonna look at you.
All right.
Look lovingly into each other's eyes. All right.
Someone's in my eye. Hold on. Okay.
All right, I'm here with Ryan of That Dragon Cancer. I gotta tell you, I know a little bit about cancer. I've never heard of dragon cancer. So Ryan, tell me about this awesome game.
All right. Well, this game is about my son. I have 4 sons with my wife Amy, and our 3rd son has terminal cancer. And so we've been fighting this dragon for the last 3 years. And this is kind of an autobiographical game about our journey as a family, through the ups and the downs, the laughter and the tears and the faith and the hope that we have. So it's about us.
Well, so has your family, obviously it's about family, but how much has your family been involved in the process of putting the game together?
Yeah, well, we actually do have a development team, but my wife is very involved in the writing. And I kind of I wrote the first scene, and my wife has drafts of the next couple scenes. And so our kids are going to do voiceover. My son Isaac did voiceover in our teaser trailer, and it's going to be something that expresses all of our views, and it's even something where we've asked our doctors and nurses if they are able to participate, because we'd really love to get their perspective as well.
So I also see something that's really neat about this game beyond just the story behind it. You've got an Ouya behind us, and you've got it running on that. How has it been developing for this new technology?
Well, it's awesome. We use Unity as a platform, so that gives us a lot of flexibility, and I really love the Ouya, this sweet little system, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy playing it, but I also feel like it's something that allows us as indies to bring our game to the living room, and this is something that's a really intensely personal game, but I hope that it's a shared experience, and even though we're talking about really hard things, my hope is that rather than closing up, people talk to each other about those things.
Well, it's absolutely an incredible story and a great message. How does one, get access to this game? Where are you in the development? What are you looking at for distribution?
Well, it's been really amazing to have so much early interest and to get picked up for publishing and all of those different things. So we're going to be working really hard over the next year to bring it to the Ouya. And then after that, we'll see.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you for taking the time with us, and you should check this game out. That's That Dragon Cancer.
Next up is Craig with Telepath Tactics. Craig, I can see something that looks, ooh, there's actually creation of the game going on right next to us. Craig, what's going on here?
That is actually an illustration of mod support. You can create your own characters, your own tile sets, your own campaigns. Right now you can actually see the dialogue editor in kind of sped up form, creating a branching dialogue tree with custom variables that the player can influence. This is the map editor. There's actually a lot of custom tools for creating your own content that come with this game.
Now that strikes very close to home for Unknown Worlds, so we'll come back to that in a moment. But before we do, what is Telepath Tactics? Obviously, because it's, many of the games around here don't have defined narratives, but could you give an overall idea of what's going on in Telepath Tactics, what the gameplay style is?
Yes, Telepath Tactics is what we call strategy RPG. So it's like Fire Emblem or Disgaea or Final Fantasy Tactics, very much in that vein. You're proceeding through a narrative with a bunch of unique characters. They level up, they grow stronger, they gain new skills, and gradually the challenge of the battles increases as the story progresses. That's the basic gist.
Okay, now coming back to the modding for Natural Selection 2, giving the game code away open source, making all tools available has been such an important part of our game and developing community. What do you see as the benefits of giving away tools for Telepath Tactics and allowing people to create their own content?
There's a lot of benefits. I mean, one is I'm lazy, and I'm going to keep creating stuff for the game, but there's a limit to what I can do if I still want to go on and make other games. And I don't know, in past games, the community has been like, Craig, can we mod this? And I've been like, well, no. And I want to keep the community happy, so giving them the tools to actually make their own stuff will make it a better game, and it will keep the community happy. And it also means that people who buy the game will have a lot of extra content for free, basically, because people will want to make stuff. That's the gist.
Modding is a win, 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 win. Now, Greg, I know you don't want to hear this question because it's such a tough question, but how, when, where, what platforms, how much?
It's going to be PC, Mac, and Linux to start. There's a possibility of a console port after that. There's a possibility of a mobile port. We'll just have to see how that goes. It's going to be releasing sometime in 2014. I don't really want to get more specific than that because we're just not close enough for me to really pinpoint it. And we'll probably be pricing it at around $10.
I'm here with Lane at Tinker House Games, and we're going to talk about Dwarven Delve. Yeah. Tell us, what is this awesome game?
So Dwarven Delve is what we've been working on for about the last 6 months. We're calling it an action puzzle crawl, and we're calling that because it's a light action RPG in that you run a party around, attack monsters, get loot, level up, all that sort of stuff. And puzzle crawl, because you're crawling through the dungeon, there's lots of puzzle elements. You can see some of them up on here, and I won't go into too much depth, but sigil hexes that you have to connect to each other, hexes that link up to each other. So essentially, as you're fighting your way through the dungeon, it's kind of a top-down, we're kind of making it akin to a Zelda puzzle, where you got to figure out how to get through the dungeon as well, and also fight your way through and use your party's abilities and that sort of thing.
And is it a multiplayer game?
It is not a multiplayer game. It's just a single-player game right now. Post-release, we definitely have ideas about how to take a multiplayer, but we'll be doing our initial release just as a single-player campaign.
So essentially, as a single player, I'm controlling multiple people throughout the map?
No, kind of. As a single player, you're going to control the Dwarven party, which you can see right here, actually, on the map. Now, as you tap around, they're going to move around kind of like an RTS unit would. So they're moving around as one consistent unit. One of the core mechanics that we have that we're excited about is you can see the lit-up portions of the dungeon and the darker portions of the dungeon. Whatever's connected to the dwarves is the active dungeon. Whatever is disconnected from the dwarves is the inactive dungeon. I can rotate these hexes as I play to make different layouts through the dungeon and make different active and inactive dungeons as I go. And a lot of the monster mechanics and how they behave and a lot of the terrain mechanics and how they behave are keyed off of whether or not they're in that active or inactive dungeon with you. And that's actually how we key off a lot of our puzzle mechanics as well.
That's pretty awesome, and it looks like it's very unique as well as kind of different every time you play it.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty true. The levels are hand-authored with possibly with procedural offshoots to them, but the core line through the level is always going to be hand-authored. But the way that you play through can diverge pretty wildly depending on which dwarves you take with you and the party composition, which is also something you control, and then just how you choose to attack it, honestly.
So when are you looking to release? Are you released? What platforms?
We are unreleased. We're trying for the end of this year, but realistically, it's probably in the beginning of next year as those things go. Our initial releases are going to be iPad and Android tablet only, I'm afraid. But we're also going to be going to OS X and PC right afterwards. We're trying to get on Steam. We don't know if that's going to happen yet. We got Greenlight running right now. And then after that, we're going to be going to Surface tablets.
Well, it sounds fantastic. Lane, thank you so much for showing us your game.
Welcome. Glad you could be here.
All right.
Chromancer. It's not a word I'm entirely familiar with. I don't know quite what to think when I hear the word Chromancer, but George here is going to tell us.
Well, Chromancer is a new online card game that's coming in December of this year. We're on Kickstarter right now, and we're showing it in the Indie Mega Booth of PAX Prime so that people can see our really incredible new game mechanics and hopefully see our great art too, and realize that with a successful Kickstarter, we'll put all that great art in our game.
Now, mate, you were saying just before I turned on this here camera that you are in alpha, and you just promised a what date release?
Well, actually a December release, but that's a very good question. Why is that possible? Well, we've actually spent about 7 years designing this game. Everything is together in terms of the mechanics and the gameplay and so forth. The only thing that's not together is sticking the art and the UI together, which will take us a few months.
So it's basically the opposite development cycle to Natural Selection 2. Alpha 5 years out? I don't know. That's very cool. So, what platforms? When? Well, we've answered when. How much?
Well, we're a browser-based game, actually, so there's no download. You can play cross-platform. Anything that has the internet will play it, whether it's a phone or a tablet or a PC.
Okay, and what could you give us? We know it's a card game online. Can you give us a bit of a narrative of what the gameplay involves? Is there a story around it? What's going on in this game?
Well, yes to all of the above, but here it is in a nutshell. We are lifelong card game players. We love this genre. We love these games. We love all the games that are out there. But we tried to get away from sort of the Magic paradigm. We feel most games are pretty similar to Magic, and we're doing something totally unique and different. In a very brief nutshell, the way our game works is you're actually attacking your opponent's ability to play the game by disabling, for example, his draw deck so he can't draw cards anymore, disabling his bank so he can't save resources, and disabling his discard pile so that cards leave play automatically as he uses them. That's our general paradigm, and it affects things like our card mechanics, it affects things like our overall deck building, and it makes for a game that, as lifelong card game players, for the first time, we're playing a game that we don't totally get the strategy ourselves as we sit down to play. And some of the card gamers around here are beating us at our own game, which is pretty humbling, I have to tell you.
All right, I'm here with Zach from Zachtronics, and we're checking out Ironclad Tactics. Zach, tell us about this awesome game.
Hi, so Ironclad Tactics is a fast-paced, card-based tactics game set in an alternate history civil war with robots.
Wow, did you say Civil War with robots?
I did.
That is probably the coolest thing I've heard. Yep. So tell us how it works exactly.
So it's into gesture to something. I don't know. It's a. I guess the big distinguishing feature is it's a tactics game with 5-second turns. So, as you can imagine, that's some pretty quick tactical decisions you have to make. We streamline the entire game to function with 5-second turns. So, like, you've got ranges of units that you can really quickly visually see who's in threat of being attacked, who needs to be moved. All the movement and attacking happens automatically. It's sort of like if you took a tactics game, but gave it the momentum of like Plants vs. Zombies, and made it something that it's fun, it's fast, it's not boring.
You mentioned that it's got cards. I can see the cards on the screen. Are the cards something that are unique to each player, or is it just a random grouping that's given to you each round?
So it's a story-driven campaign. So there's like an 80-page graphic novel that drives this really strong character-driven story campaign. And as you play missions, you unlock cards, and from that you build decks. So, and you have to build decks. Some games you can get away with just building one deck and playing through with it. Not this game. Every level has completely different challenges.
Well, it sounds incredible. How do we get this game? When is it available? What's the development status? Tell us all the details.
So the game is actually, you can pre-order it right now on Steam or our website. It's going to launch the 18th of next month.
The Indie Mega Booth is the haven of sometimes the weird and wonderful. This is definitely one of the more unique games I have seen in the Indie Mega Booth so far. I am standing here with Ryan. Ryan, what is this game called? What is going on? Why is this man in this red shirt dancing?
It's called Crypt of the Necrodancer. It's a roguelike rhythm game, or like a dungeon crawling rhythm game. And you can play it with a DDR pad, as you can see, but also works with a keyboard or a gamepad, things like that too. But you basically have to move around the dungeon on the beat. If you miss the beat, you just don't move, but the enemies will still move and they'll come at you. So a rhythm dungeon game.
Okay, now it's kind of like a workout while playing a game. That's a good move. You mentioned roguelike. Now roguelike is up. We got someone in the way. Okay. You mentioned roguelike. For those that don't know what roguelike means, what does it mean?
Well, it usually means that the levels are procedurally generated, so they're different every time. You never know quite what you're going to get, so you can't memorize a specific, pattern or anything like that to beat the levels. So there's that, but also when you die, you lose everything. So you don't usually keep any of your stuff from run to run, although in our game we do have a bit of a meta game where when you die you get to keep diamonds, and diamonds you can spend in the lobby to buy things from NPCs that you do get to keep permanently. But we also have a hardcore mode that's like for hardcore roguelike fans where you never keep anything and all you ever start with is a dagger. So.
Okay, now the questions that any indie developer dreads: when, what platforms, how much, where can I get more information?
More information is at necrodancer.com. So it's PC and Mac for Steam. We're targeting early access release on Steam in November, and then the full release early next year.
Fantastic. I wish you the best of luck. This looks like a very interesting game, and I can't wait to see more of it.